Good morning. Today is December 15th, and today I'm on the Domingo Baca Trail. This trail is well known for the wreckage site of flight TWA 260, and today it's about 45 degrees, so we're gonna hike up to the top. I am prepared. I've got my micro spikes just in case we hit a little snow, and also we're gonna take lunch up there, so that's gonna be nice. Today I'm gonna do a little remembrance hike of the flight, because this year 2025 is the 70th anniversary of the flight from Albuquerque that crashed into the Sandia Mountains. And so right up here you're gonna see the tram, and I'll try to zoom in. That little blue piece right there is part of the tram, and then it goes up. But the sad thing about this flight is that it crashed into the side of this mountain. So follow along and we'll talk about it. So on February 19th, Saturday night in 1955, flight TWA 260 took off from Albuquerque Airport at 7 a.m. and they say that the weather was pretty bad, and clouds were covering the mountain. There was also snow on the mountain, and it was extremely cold. So the flight took off at 7, and it only lasted 13 minutes before crashing into the mountain. And what's sad is that 16 people were on the flight, 13 of them passengers, and 3 of the flight crew died as it attempted to head towards Santa Fe. And from what I understand, when they took off, they were supposed to go 4 miles to the west and then turn north and go 60 miles towards Algodones. But evidently something went wrong with their navigation, and they only went 1 mile out and then 20 miles north, which took them to approximately right in this area where their ground sensors went off, and the flight perished up top where the left wing hit one of those peaks up there. So on a happier note, again, today is December 14th, and today is my father-in-law's birthday, so shout out to Mike. Happy birthday. Get out and enjoy the day. It's gonna be a beautiful day. All right, let's start talking about the crew. So the captain of the plane was Captain Ivan Spung. He's from Kansas, and started his career as a flight instructor and was also in the war, where he went on 100 missions. So we thank him for his service. And he had started with TWA in 1942, and it says that he had made this trip to Santa Fe 11 times. So he had flown from Albuquerque to Santa Fe. It's like a 22-minute flight, is what they said, and had done it several times. But his family said that he was a little anxious about flying in bad weather, and that's kind of what he was faced with here. So take that for what it's worth. But one of the bad things about that happened after the flight was that at first they blamed the crash on pilot error and said that they had committed suicide, which so many of his friends and other pilots said that was no way that happened, and they went in and did investigations to clear his name. But one of the sad things that happened was he had a child at home and a wife at home, and they were being harassed and were being sent awful messages through the U.S. Postal Service. And they ended up moving from Kansas to Arizona to finish out their life because they couldn't handle all the drama that was coming with it. So look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So the other pilot, his first officer was named Jesse James Creason, and he had joined the Army Air Corps and was a gunner on B-17s, and when he got out of the war, he used the GI Bill to become a flight instructor and a pilot. And in 1951 he joined TWA. He had flown this flight from Albuquerque to Santa Fe over 30 times, so he was well aware of this flight, and we're going to thank him for his service for flying as well. So the other crew member that was on the flight was Sharon Shuning, and I may have mispronounced her name, and I apologize if I did. She was only 23 years old, and she had done a year and a half of hostess training and had joined up with TWA, and they say that when the plane had crashed into the side of the Sandias, she was back in the back, probably preparing coffee for the flight. So what a sad story, and such a young life to have been lost up there. So you're probably wondering where Tucker is. I decided to leave him at home because I didn't know what the trail was going to be like once I got up into the mountains. And Cha-Cha decided to go eat lunch with one of her friends. So I think this is a pretty good time to come join this trail. And one thing about it is I've seen quite a few people on this trail. It's been pretty enjoyable and not hot, which is nice. We're in the desert, so this trail can get pretty hot during the summertime, but right now, pretty enjoyable. Only about 45 degrees, and we're starting to see a little snow, So the first part of this desert is, hike is in the desert and pretty flat. And now we're starting our climb. So this says it's over 7 miles out and back. So it also said it was going to take about 4 hours. Of course, it's going to take me longer because I'm filming. And right now, just a really beautiful trail. So right up there is where the tram ends, and somewhere along here, up here is where the plane crashed. So we'll be going up to a little higher. One thing about this trip that I'm taking is that I'm from Oklahoma. My wife's from Santa Fe, so we both have ties to this. A couple of the people who died in this were from Oklahoma originally, so we thought we'd do a little remembrance. I was going to do this earlier in the year, but things just happened, so luckily we can come out and do this today. First passenger out of the 13 was from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and his name was Homer Bray, a local insurance and real estate agent who got on the flight to head to Kansas. So thoughts are with him today as we head up. The second passenger from Albuquerque that was on the flight was Reverend Earl Davis from Albuquerque, and it's sad because he was headed to Oklahoma City for his brother's funeral, and that's had to be sad for their family. So the third and fourth passenger that passed on this flight was Mr. and Mrs. Alfred and Dorothy Schoonmaker from New Jersey, and hopefully I pronounced that name correctly. And he was coming from New Jersey to visit New Mexico, and was on a business trip and was headed up to Santa Fe, and then they were going to head to Los Alamos, which I think most of us are familiar with. So the fourth passenger that died on this flight was William Campbell from New Jersey, and he had made a last-minute decision to fly to Albuquerque to join his in-laws, the Schoonmakers, who were going up to Los Alamos. And so that family was rocked with 3 people dying in the family. I just could not imagine that. But he was going to join them on their trip to Los Alamos to enjoy New Mexico. All right, let's talk about Worth Nickel. He was working in Albuquerque at P&M and got on the flight so he could fly back to Amarillo, Texas for his son's 14th birthday party. And my heart goes out to him. I have 3 boys, and as I'm making this video, I'm just kind of reflecting back on my family and who they are, and I just can't imagine it. Right here, evidently, no one knows what this is, but it's a shelter. It's right along this ridge here, and I can hear people up there. And I'm wondering if that's part of the lush trail, but everything I looked at to figure out what that was, I have no clue. But pretty neat little structure. The canyon is starting to close in. So the next passenger who had passed was Dr. Robert Balk from Socorro, New Mexico. And he was a geologist for the New Mexico Bureau of Mines. And he was headed east to a science foundation meeting. Harold Tibbs was one of the next passengers on the flight, who had flown to Santa Fe, New Mexico to look at some oil and gas drilling maps. And he was vice president of the Helmrich Oil and Gas Drilling Exploration Company. And he was headed back to Oklahoma City and then back to Tulsa. So for all those Okies out there, we lost one here in these mountains. So shout out to his family and prayers for them if they ever watch this. And just wanted them to know that people are still remembering the people that died in this horrible crash. The trail right now is kind of weaving up, and there's water in the trail down below. It's also starting to get cold. When I left the truck, it was 45 degrees. I'll check here in a little bit, see what the temp is right here. So prepare for some climbs. I think I messed up the name of the Harold Tibbs' company. It was the Helmrich Payne Oil and Gas Drilling Exploration Company. And I lived in Payne County, Stillwater, Oklahoma for a while, and so I'm sure it's probably the exact same Payne that's helped start that oil company. So small world. So I got off trail. Luckily, I have all trails, and I've heard on this route that you're supposed to take a right, but the trail just naturally goes left. So I believe I'm gonna go back down and take a left. I had taken a left and went up, and then when I came out, I probably missed the turn, but I saw a pathway here. So if you go left, don't go too far, and make sure, again, the reason why we use all trails and Onyx backcountry is so that if we get off trail, we can find our way back. So that's the trail I came down. There's another trail here I'm gonna follow, and it should send us back up to the left. And I think where I made my mistake is I went up first instead of following the canyon where the water was at. So I'll try to show you where that's at, and here's a pathway assigned. So this is probably where we need to go up. Let's take a look here real quick. Yep, there it is. So I was up there. I didn't take that pathway because there was water on it, but I'll take that way back just to make sure. So we're gonna head up. The crazy thing is that I've been on this trail and I've done this before. And if you watched any of my videos, you'll know I preach about having navigation like Onyx backcountry, or in this case, all trails. And you might think, well, that's because you get lost all the time. And that might be right, but still, better be safe than sorry. Glad that I checked all trails when I did, and we're still heading up that way. So the next passenger that we remember was a guy by the name of Dan Collier, and I'm a little confused with this because he was president of the Dan Cohen Shoe Company. So I don't know if that Collier name is correct or not, or if it was Cohen. But he had recently opened up a shoe store in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and he was headed back to Cincinnati, Ohio, where he was going back home to celebrate his 50th birthday, which was the following Friday. That kind of hits home with me. I just had my birthday December 6th, and I turned 56, so I'm just 6 years older than that guy, and I've got a lot of life to live, so pretty sad. The trail narrowing up a little bit, still climbing, not even close to the top yet. All right, I'm 2.5 miles in, and there's snow on the trail, which I expected. I have my micro spikes, but so far I don't really need them. But if I do, I'll put them on. Beautiful little area. We got some pine trees and good views of the canyon. The next passenger was Robert Riley from Dallas, Texas, and he was headed home from Albuquerque, and was headed to Dallas. And not a lot about him. He worked for the American Institute of Steel Construction, and that was really all I saw about him. So another life lost. So the last two passengers on the flight were Robert Nyland and Harry Schuth, I believe that's how it's pronounced. They're from Kansas City, Missouri. They had been in Las Vegas, Nevada, and had witnessed atomic bomb testing, and were headed back to Missouri, which kind of speaks to New Mexico and some of the things that we've witnessed here with Los Alamos and the study of the atomic bomb there at Los Alamos. So pay homage to them too. Very cool. The last person paying respect to on this flight was somebody from Oklahoma, Lois Dean. She was from Hollis, Oklahoma, and she was a first grade teacher in Albuquerque at Lew Wallace Elementary. She was headed back to Oklahoma for a job interview with the U.S. government, where she was applying to become a teacher in Japan for dependents of the war. So shout out to her family. Hope I pronounced it correctly. We are in a beautiful part of the trail right now. We're still quite a ways from the crash site, and when I get up there, I'll show you some of the wreckage. So let's talk about what happened after the crash. So the flight was only in the air for 13 minutes. They took off at 7. Their alarms went off at 7:12, and they lost communication with the plane at 7:13. I'm gonna assume last minute was the only time the passengers knew they were in trouble. This was in February, and there was snow on the ground. No trail had been broke up this way. In fact, the only reason why this trail exists is because of the TWA Flight. So, on top of that, if you know anything about Albuquerque, the closest north-south road to the Sandias at the time was Wyoming. And from Wyoming up to the Sandias, they had to get on a horse-drawn carriage to get to the base, and then they had to hike up this canyon in the snow. Again, no trail had been broke. It was several days before they actually found the plane. Nobody was living at the base of the Sandias. Nobody saw it. In fact, they had searched for the plane west of Albuquerque because that's where it was first headed towards. But again, instead of heading 4 miles out, it only headed out a mile. And then crashed at the top. And if you look at it, they were really close to getting over that thing. But their left wing clipped. I can't imagine what it was like. So I just met Alan on the trail. He's all the way up here from Las Cruces, New Mexico. Told him I'd give him a shout out. Avid hiker, said he's done the Lush Trail and several other trails up here. So up here on business, and told his wife I got to knock off one more trail. So I can appreciate that. So shout out to him. Safe travels home. So Alan was saying that he wished he had brought his trekking poles, which I can appreciate that, because I am a proponent of trekking poles as well. But I brought my micro spikes, and he said it gets a little dicey up here. Wish he had his trekking poles to kind of secure his way down through the ice and snow. So keep that in mind if you come up here in December. I am right around 3 miles and we are climbing. So get ready for a climb. This is not the easiest trail in the world. And going back to what I was talking about with the rescuers when they came up here, they had to hike up to get this. Evidently, Albuquerque has a mountaineering group that even back then they were coming up here and doing things. They had came in from the opposite side of the Sandias and scaled down the mountain to find the crash site, and that's how they first located it. And then rescuers had to climb up this. Imagine that. 13 people were up here at the top of this who perished, and they had to bring those bodies down. So shout out to all the New Mexico volunteers that come out here in the Sandias and do search and rescue. Greatly appreciated. Well, the aspens are out here trying to make a stand, so that'd be pretty in the fall. I'll tell you a little story about my youngest, Aiden. So we moved here about 10 years ago, and so at the time we talked him into coming out and doing this trail with us. He was 14, 8th grade, you know. He had more important things in his life going on, but he goes, "Can I bring my girlfriend?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." First girlfriend. And he got about this far. So he was up about 3 miles. And they concocted a plan where, they were just tired and they wanted to stop here and they'd wait on us. Well, Aiden, we're not stupid, buddy. 14-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl doesn't need to be in the Sandia Mountains alone. So Cha-Cha stayed with them while I hiked up the rest of the way. So Aiden, we're on to you way before that, dude. Pretty funny. Starting to get a little icy here in a little bit. I may put on my micro spikes. It's kind of going in and out of snow, so I might use them, especially on the way down for sure. Starting to get a little dicey. I just slipped, so I'm gonna put these guys on. These are the TWA micro spikes, and they're a lightweight version of these. Make sure I put them on right. Let's say left or right. Those should work. We're gonna call this Aiden's Rock because this is where he thought he was gonna get some alone time with his girlfriend. Can't wait to tell his future wife that. I just really cannot imagine what those first rescuers thought when they were having to climb up this thing. This is a good 3-hour hike up for most people. You could come up faster, but no trail was broke. They weren't 100% sure that they were going to find anything. They didn't know what the plane was like, but that guy right there could have been one of the culprits that they started with. We're getting close to the site. We're also going to probably start seeing the trolley on the tram here pretty soon if they're running today, and we'll see here in a minute. So right up here are the tram wires, and getting ready to come out is the tram that's going up top. That's pretty cool. So you can imagine that the guys that were coming up here to rescue those people probably only had hatchets and manual saws to come up here to cut through the trees, make a path. During the day it was in the 30s, and at night it was at 0 is what they said. Starting early in the morning, climbing up, dealing with trees like this that they had to climb over, and so people were having to cut and trim all these trees so that they could get the bodies out, or what was left of the bodies, that is. I can just imagine coming up here in the snow, because right now there's no snow, just a little bit, but climbing through this and thinking, what are we going to be able to save? What are we going to be able to do? So it's just crazy. And right here is our scramble, and we have to climb up this, I believe, to get up there. Okay, full disclosure, there's gonna be a point on this video where I take you the wrong way. I'm gonna show you the way I went, and then I'm going to show you the way you should go. So stay tuned for that. All right, I was gonna go up that, but that was pretty difficult. I think I'm gonna stay with this. I'm gonna just scramble up this because I believe it's right on the other side of this area. And let's see. All right, gonna have to use both hands, climb up this thing. The rock is kind of slick. I took my micro spikes off, so that wasn't fun. And now I just got a little bit more to climb up. That's hard climbing for a fat man, but I almost got it whipped. Just be careful in this because the rocks are slick. Okay, and we're in it. So we should start seeing things here in a minute. So there was another trail. I'll follow that out on the way back, but now it goes up here, so I'm connected. Right down there is where I climbed up. But possibly went off trail, but we'll see. Man, this is a no joke hike. I don't know if it's because I've been off from hiking for the last 2-3 weeks because of the holidays and school and everything, but this guy is kicking my butt. I'm almost there. Listen to your body. I stopped, I'm taking a rest. I'm listening to my body. I took a little snack and I'll be up there in just a second. I don't honestly remember it being this high up here, but we're doing a little climbing. Still climbing. This is a no joke hike, not for the faint of heart. All right, we made it. When I was up here the last time, this is part of the wing, and right there is a tire. This is brand new. Last time I was up here, it was wood, so I'll take a really good picture of that and we'll blow it up so you can read it. But thanks to whoever did that. I know that this site was just a horrible site for a lot of people for a long time. This is what I was remembering. It's a wooden piece. And you can imagine that plane crashing in and then just continuing to go up the mountain. Just unbelievable. there's plenty of debris and wreckage, and you can get all into that. But mainly today, I just wanted to come up here and pay homage to the people who passed. I don't know how much more I'm gonna film, but probably won't film on the way down. If you've made it this far, please like and subscribe, and don't take this hike lightly. I'm pretty worn out, and I'm gonna sit back and have lunch and just take this in. I'm not gonna go up very much farther, and I'm gonna start heading back down, but here's some more of the wreckage. An engine, more of the fuselage, and some other things up here. But you can explore and you can keep going up the mountain, part of a wing, but a seat, which is just crazy. But come out and enjoy this. But it's a no joke hike. It is very difficult, and check back with me and we'll do more hikes together. And I just met two guys. One guy was from North Carolina, and one here from Albuquerque, and they had came up to hike up, and so a shout out to them if they're watching this video. It was nice meeting you guys, and like I say, we don't have very many views, but we'll see you on the next one. All right, that's the way I came up. I'm gonna go check this out real quick, and if it's anything, I'll let you know. Hopefully this little bypass will prevent me from having to do a lot of scrambling. I may be on to something here. I'm getting good vibes. If this is the case, this is the way I should have came in the first place. Okay, I can tell you that I missed this turnoff, so I'm gonna try to put this on, and this is the benefit of watching these videos. So I'm gonna try to put a good marker on this. Here's your reference point. The first will be this big log, and then there's some more logs here, and then you get this timber that goes across this. Now I went straight, but what I should have done is went right through there, and right here on this wood is a little arrow, and somebody should put some paint on that. So I thought this video was over, and you know, when you talk to people on the trail, you learn a lot. And I stopped, I talked to two couples. They go, "Your shoe's untied." I said, "Oh, okay, thank you, appreciate it." And we were telling them I was telling them what I was doing, and she goes, "Well, let me tell you a story." She said, you know, that crash happened on February 19th, 1955. And I was like, "Yeah, you're right." She goes, "I was born here in Albuquerque, February 19th, 1955. So she's 70, she'll be 71. So if you're watching this video, happy birthday again. And don't be afraid to talk to people on the trail. It's part of the experience. Cha-Cha does not like it, but I find that I learn a lot because people will tell you their little stories. So anyway, wanted to share that. Say cheese. Cheese.